Today we will give recommendations for the proper installation of slow-close ball valves. To gain maximum benefit of a true union connection for down-the-road serviceability, care must be taken during installation. First, we will discuss the valves with HDPE connections. HDPE has a thermal expansion and contraction rate that is 7 times that of PVC. In fact, HDPE pipe can expand or contract 1 inch per 100 feet for each 10-degree change in temperature. So to counter the potential stresses caused by that expansion and contraction rate, Colonial recommends a directional changing fitting no more than 24 inches from either side of the valve, as shown here. In this case, we would have an elbow coming up from the saddle, through the valve, and then out across the fairway or the lateral of a golf course. The following layout is shown in the installation instructions and the submittals for the valves available on our website. For outlets on the PVC side of a slow-close valve, a directional changing fitting is not necessary. The following layout shows a connection with PVC on the downstream side and HDP on the upstream side, just as we have it laid out here. Up from the riser on HDPE, through the isolation valve, out to the fairway or lateral. In these layouts, you'll see that we set a recommendation of 18 inches from grade as the proper depth for the valve. Since true union type slow-close valves are serviceable with union connections, we recommend a jumbo valve box that will allow access to the union nuts rather than direct burial of the valves. We recommend pre-assembling the valve in a clean environment and hand tightening the union nuts. You can then size in and make your end connections to the riser elbow and the downstream fittings so that the face-to-face or takeout dimensions for the union connections will be intact. The valve should be in the open position with the operating nut turned all the way to the left when tightening the union nuts. Remember, hand tighten only, and install with the flow direction, which is molded on the body of the valve, in the proper direction of your piping. Be sure that the face O-rings are clean and properly seated before tightening. Remember, with proper alignment, a hand-tight union nut will deliver the proper compression on the face O-rings of the valve. If desired, a strap wrench or PVC union nut wrench can be used to tighten the union nut, but no more than 1/10 of a turn past hand tight. And remember, union nut threads need to be clean and free of dirt or debris when you're installing the valves. Proper alignment is very important, both horizontal alignment and vertical alignment. Do not use the union nut to draw together any gaps between the end connector and the union nut or valve body. The end connection should make contact with the face O-ring of the valve without the assistance of tightening the union nuts. Plastic pipe valves and fittings are pressure rated at 73 degrees Fahrenheit, and pressure must be derated as operating temperatures increase. In the case of irrigation installation, pipe valves and fittings left exposed to direct sunlight can absorb heat and become damaged by heat distortion. In order to avoid heat distortion, we recommend that the valves stay under cover, away from direct sunlight. In some cases, the valve box can be draped over the connection until it is time to set the valve box in the trench. Here are some recommendations that apply to any thermoplastic pipe, valve, or fitting, be it PVC or HDPE. Avoid storing them in direct sunlight or very hot areas. Avoid leaving them exposed to sunlight in open trenches. Allow the valve, pipe, and fittings to cool and settle before pressurizing them with water. And recheck the tightness of the union nuts prior to pressurizing the system. When flushing laterals, or any time that you will be cycling the Slo-Close valve to an open or closed position, we recommend the following. A 10-second rotation to cycle the valve operating nut 360 degrees open, which is a turn to the left. So approximately 10 seconds to fully open the valve. And to close the valve, just 5 seconds to cycle the valve 360 degrees in the opposite direction. This cycle time will allow for the full functionality of the valve while avoiding hydraulic shock, also known as water hammer. We do not recommend that you hold the valve in a semi-open or throttling position. This can damage the interior of the valve, and it is not necessary when cycling the valve to flush laterals. Metal has higher sound insulating properties than plastic, so you will tend to hear water flowing through a PVC Slo-Close valve more than you would a brass or a bronze gate valve during the initial opening and rush of water when flushing laterals. This will occur during the initial fill prior to reaching equilibrium, and it is normal. When making connections to PVC pipe, we recommend that you follow the cement manufacturer's recommendations for proper solvent welding. This includes deburring and chamfering the pipe, proper use of primer and cement, hold time and cure time. Please pay careful attention to all of those instructions on these connections. And if you plan to use threaded connections, we do not recommend the use of Teflon tape. We only recommend the use of IPS all-seal thread sealant. If you plan to make a threaded end connection, do not over-tighten the threads into the end piece of the valve, and we never recommend the use of a male metal thread with a plastic female threaded fitting. Connections to the HDPE side of the valve can be made with socket fusion or electrofusion fittings. Follow the welding equipment manufacturer's guidelines and instructions for proper welding of HDPE pipe sections and fittings. Installation sheets are available on our website, as well as CAD files and other documents, such as this one-page piece that gives you an overview of Slo-Close valves and their simple operation, that's available in both Spanish and English, which is great for posting in your work shed or superintendent's office. If you have any questions or comments, please call the technical service support numbers that are shown on the screen. Thank you again.